Coming soon to theaters. Podcasts, film reviews, and so much more. Available at tristanmiller.substack.com.
And now, our feature presentation.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Focus Testing, a podcast about movies where we make a movie. What? My name is Tristan Miller, and joining me today is the hilarious Grace Jarvis. How are you, Grace?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. It is a beautiful 10 p.m. here in New York Standard Time, and I'm given to understand that it's 2 p.m. tomorrow in Australia. Where are you in Australia right now?
Melbourne.
Yeah.
That's the problem with Australia too, is it's got like 3 different time zones anyway.
I know. I was explaining that to someone as well recently. They're like, what? Because, of course, it's an American friend of mine. And she was like, that's too big. I'm like, that's how many we have. It's about the same size.
Yeah. We're pretty big, like in size,
Yeah, for sure.
I was in Perth last week and it was like 4 hours ahead. And then I couldn't even get my head around that, just being on the other side of my own country.
Yeah, 100%. I'll say this. It's easier for someone to fly to Ireland than it is to... It's quicker, rather, to fly to Ireland from New York than to California. It takes less time, which is fucked up.
Does it really?
Yeah, it's about the same.
That's wild.
Yeah, America's too big. It's too big. We got to cut it up. I don't know what to tell you.
Too big.
Too big.
Get rid of some of those chunks.
Yeah, get them, start just digging more Great Lakes. As a Minnesotan, That's my, I think, MO.
Look, I'm very pro lake as well. I think that's a good plan. Also, I sometimes I think I was having a conversation with someone where I can't remember what I was talking about, like bears or something. Maybe I was like, because you guys are terrified of our animals. And I'm like, you guys have bears. Like mammals that tear you to shreds.
It's true.
You will survive a snake bite if you get anti-venom. You will not survive being torn apart by a bear. It's like so much more dangerous. But I was like, I think maybe it's a North American thing. And someone was like, oh, but they have it in Canada as well. And I was like, yeah, North America, describing the continent.
I tell you, when I was in New Zealand, there was a fair amount of like, oh, well, you have a North American accent. I'm like, oh, I guess I've never thought of it that way, have I? That's wild. But yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I'm obsessed with like a TikTok comment on a Melanie Linsky interview or something, being like, she has an accent. I'm like, you all do. Like, there's no standard.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so strange as well, because I find the most common thing about an accent is that the way you're good at an accent is that the person you're doing the accent to likes you. That's the only way that they'll go, yeah, that's good. Because everyone thinks they can't. No one can get their accent right. But yeah, I think it's so silly. I mean, I don't want to harp on it too much, but going abroad as an American, as like someone who's a trying to beauty themselves up, but a pseudo ugly American. I was like, oh yeah, it really just changes your perspective of like, why are we doing this? None of this makes sense.
The vibes are wild. Sometimes I watch American movies with Australian characters and I'm like, who the fuck is this? Why did they, like, you couldn't find an Australian person in LA? Like, chuck a rock, man, you'll hit one. And then you look them up and you're like, oh, they are Australian. They're just hamming the accent up for what Americans think the accent sounds like. I'm like, we got to burn it all down. Start again.
It's very true.
The people who made Crocodile Dundee have a lot to answer for.
It's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
I would say as well, like I pride myself. I don't know why I have this ability, but anytime I hear an Aussie do an American accent, I'm like, that's New South Wales or some shit. That's not, get out of here with that nonsense.
And Nicole Kidman is, I mean, she's a national treasure, but she's not nailing that accent ever, really.
Not really, no.
And good for her, to be honest. Good for her for getting all those jobs despite not really crushing it.
And that's feminism, you know?
Actually, yes. Women should be allowed to be mediocre at stuff as well. I mean, she's not a mediocre actor. She's an incredible actor. But
Oh yeah.
I mean, I feel like the last thing I saw her in was like weirdly Aquaman, and that was unclear where anyone was supposed to be from, to be fair. So
Yes.
they're from under the sea. They have their own thing.
For sure. If anything, they should be all sounding like Jamaican crabs, I suppose. I don't know.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
The Atlantic accent.
I will say
that is probably actually an accent already. I meant Atlantis.
Yes. Well, I mean, there's the transatlantic accent. You've heard of this, yes?
Oh, yes. Yeah. That's very fun.
I'm trying to pioneer a new one, which is the trans Pacific accent, which is you're going about normally as a North American, and then all of a sudden you say, "Oh no," and then you move on with your life.
I love that. I actually love that. That's great. Mix it up. Because my parents are from New Zealand, so other Australians don't think I have an Australian accent, but New Zealanders do. But people from the Northern Hemisphere think we're all the same country anyway, so they're not noticing a difference.
It was
except occasionally I have words that even I have the New Zealand word for the thing, and then I don't have the Australian word for the thing. So I definitely don't have the British or the American word for the thing. And then I'm like fully speaking English, but sounding like it's my second language. Like domes, like just doing the hand gesture. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, the snap closures on clothes. Trying to like get a picture up. Domes.
A dome. I've never heard it referred to as a dome before.
No, I didn't know it wasn't what it was called. I had to like run it back and be like, oh, this is a Kiwi parent thing. Okay.
That's very funny. That's very good. I'd imagine it would go jandal thong flip flop pretty quick. That one's pretty normal.
Yeah, I can do that one. I can do that translation for sure. Yeah. And also chili bin esky cooler. I can do that one. Yeah.
You can always tell it's an American word when it's either the thing it does or the thing it sounds like.
Yeah, you're big on, and or the brand name for the thing. Like we just call tissues, but you call them all Kleenex, even if they're not of the Kleenex dynasty. For sure. I mean, that's why we call it an elevator. That was the
brand in New York. Yeah, they're all called elevators, and so everyone's like, get on the. Again, they all had a little sign above the lift.
Well, to be fair, that is exactly what it does. And that
is also what it does.
It elevates you for sure. I mean, it also lifts you. We're both right in this situation.
Yeah, if you could believe. So you said you recently saw Aquaman. What's the most recent film you've watched, though? Would you say?
Oh, that was just the most recent Nicole Kidman movie I've seen. I think I saw that like years ago. I think I saw it in the cinema. It's like the only superhero movie I've ever seen because it was coming out and I was like, well, I like Polynesian men and underwater cities. So I'll see that. Not good, but a fun time. I've gotten really
so grim when they were doing the second one and Jason Momoa was just like, I don't know, looks bad. I don't think we're gonna do a third. It's bad when the star of the movie is like, I don't know about this one.
It doesn't look great, guys. I'm not into it. I've gotten really into going to the movies recently because like the movies are back, man. I'm like I've just like every few days been getting stoned and going to the cinema and just like seeing whatever's on. Sick. It's been wild. What was the last thing I saw? I think it was All of Us Strangers.
Oh, I don't know that one.
It's a British one. It's got Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal.
Oh, yes. And
now I'd only seen I'd only seen the trailer because I'd just been watching other movies. I saw Bottoms twice at the cinema because I was like, that was incredible. And I think the trailer for All of Us Strangers came up at one point and I was like, oh, that looks good. Like it was like a nice queer romance kind of thing. And I have never been so devastated in my fucking life. Like I was still crying when I walked to the cinema, I walked back. I was still sobbing when I got to my house. It's like a 20-minute walk. It is a devastatingly sad movie, and I purposefully have never read A Little Life because I'm like, I know I can't handle it, and then I just walked into that with no information, just oh my God, weeping, devastating. I mean, very good, but it's one of those movies where I'm like, I'm glad I saw that at the cinema because I would never have been able to sit down and make myself watch that in my house. Because I called my mum about it. And she was like, oh, this reminds me of like when Once Were Warriors came out, which is a New Zealand film. And because my mum grew up in South Auckland,
Oh, sure.
like it was very familiar to her and her parents. And she like went with her mum to the movies to see it. And they came out and was like, what did you like it? And her mum was like, of course I didn't like it. That was harrowing. And she was like, that's the wrong question to ask. It's a very good movie, but no, you don't like it.
It is. It's a very grim film. I think it's phenomenally put together. I watched it a couple of years ago before my trip, but also I realized I had seen it, but I had to turn it off because like me coming in, it was like, why is Django Fett being so mean to everyone? You know, I was confused. I saw it when I was like, oh, I love Tim Morrison. Let me see what else he's done. And I was like 18 at the time. And I was like, oh no, I very quickly clocked like, I don't think I'm emotionally mature enough for this film.
Devastating. Actually, so like even Whale Rider is kind of brutal to watch.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I love, and I have seen it multiple times, and it is a beautiful movie. But the scene where she's doing her her speech and her like just crying because her granddad didn't come because he's disappointed that she's a girl, and she's still doing her kapa haka, and it's like, oh my God, so sad.
It's so sad. One of my favorite films, perhaps the first person I remember like actively having a crush on is like a wee one going, because I saw it when I was like 13 and I was like, oh, this gal, she's so good.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
She's beautiful. And also like the character herself is like, so like a powerful character and in a way. And I was like, very like, yes, 100%. That makes sense to me. But what was the first film that you remember seeing in the cinema?
I think, I don't know if I remember. I know that my parents took me to Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and they had to leave because I was afraid of the big snake.
Understandable.
Yeah,
it's scary.
It's really scary.
It's really like big.
High octane action for a children's movie, I'll be honest. I think the one I remember is, I think it might be Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Like we went on like a school trip to the movies and we saw that one. And again, I remember being really scared, but I don't think the special effects were as good in that one as they were in Harry Potter.
Absolutely not. But that was intentional. But I feel like so a kind of a theme is like you go to the cinema and you're someone who's so open and willing to feel whatever the movie's presenting you with, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I just wander in like I'm like just oh, hey, what's going on in here? Also, part of that is just that I've started getting stoned before I go because I'm autistic and I have a pathological demand avoidance profile, which means that people tell me stuff is good and I'm like, I know that it is, and I'm sure, and I trust your opinion, and I know I will like this, and yet I just don't like, I'm like, I can't because you've told me to. So I'm like, now I'm like, this just getting high makes me slightly less like scared of new information. Like I'm just like slightly high and being like, oh, whatever happens as opposed to like my dad spent all of my like adolescence trying to get me to watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off because he was like, it's such a good movie, and he was too into it, so I refused to watch it. I was like, I can't, no. And then I watched it for a podcast like as an adult, and I was like, oh shit, this movie is awesome. Like it's such a good film. I do this all the time. Like during the pandemic, my my flatmate, who's another comic, was like, you have you seen Dirty Dancing? And I was like, no. And she was like, look at yourself, it's going to be your favorite movie. And we watched it and I was like, oh, this is my favorite movie. It is so good. It is a movie about a girl who learns to dance so that another girl can get an abortion. It's a perfect film.
10 out of 10.
Yeah,
that's so perfect. Good. I will have to watch it. I've never seen it, to be honest.
Oh, well, because the problem with like classic movies like that, especially from the 80s, is people pitch them with the wrong stuff. Like they talk about like the iconic scenes and they're like lifting her up in the air and don't put baby in the corner. And like, those aren't actually the best bits of that movie. They're just like the bits that people remember. The script itself is actually quite good and funny. And like, it is actually a very entertaining and like a romance, because I just always thought it was like a really sappy romance that I wouldn't be interested in. But it is actually like a very, very well made movie. I like, they pitch the wrong parts of these things. Like Ferris Bueller, my dad was like, it's cool because he's like, I don't know, ditching school, and I'm autistic and a very goody two shoes, and I was too stressed at the prospect of him being in trouble to be able to watch it. Yes, huge. Cameron rules, I'll be honest.
He does. He's the best part of the fucking movie.
He's so good. But yeah, I was like, I couldn't handle that amount of stress. There's so much secondhand stress I get from fictional stories. During the pandemic, I exclusively read middle grade fantasy novels because like that's the level of stakes I could handle at the stress level I was already at. I was like, I can only handle like everything's definitely going to be okay at the end of this. And honestly, even when it's not okay, it's pretty fine. Like,
that absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. What do you think the best cinema snack is, besides, of course, the weed you've been saying?
I mean, weed. I think the beauty of a cinema snack is like the choc top popcorn combo is kind of the only situation where you get to have both sweet, salty, and hot and cold at the same time. It's rare that you get to have all that at once.
Yeah. For those uninitiated with a chalk top, it's a cone of ice cream with chocolate like shell on top, right?
Yeah, so that it doesn't melt too fast. Yeah. It kind of gets like extra frozen so that you can still wait until the movie has started to eat it. So it's quite hard, but it's delicious. And I always get a boysenberry ripple one because I think that's like the classic choc top flavor.
That sounds really good.
Really good. And of course, you never buy boysenberry ripple ice cream like at the shops. You don't really want a whole tub of it. If I'm buying a whole tub, I want like chocolate or something else. But in the choc top format, it's kind of the perfect amount of boysenberry ripple ice cream. Yeah, especially with the popcorn. Both mouthfuls at once. A delight.
That is a delight. That's so good.
I'm high doing the ratatouille thing in the cinema, like putting both in my mouth and like seeing the flavors.
Oh, that's so good.
I just having just a delightful evening.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Do they have in Australia? Have they caught on to the trend of putting full meals in front of you? We do that here in America. Like you can get like a bowl of soup while you're eating, while you're watching something. We have like chains called Alamo Draft House, and they like the first thing was like, oh, there's a bar, and they're like, oh, and there's a kitchen, and now you're there with a salad trying to watch like Mean Girls or whatever, and you're like, where's my fork? I've dropped it. I don't understand.
Like the problem with soup or a salad is like it's not really a food you can eat in the dark.
That's like, my main issue. That's why I don't go out for it at all. I'm like, you guys have your burger or whatever. This is crazy.
The thing with the popcorn and like Maltesers and like even the choc top and like your lemonade in a cup type of thing is like you don't need to see it to know where it is.
Yeah.
Like
it's all
soup. You're just like, it's all over you immediately.
Yeah. I'm just like, what are you talking about?
Maybe like a cheese toasty you could do, like a hot, a grilled cheese.
Yes.
That's eatable, I guess. But cutlery at the cinema is wild.
I don't stand for it, but other people really seem to enjoy it. I can't imagine getting like a full like ribeye,
Yeah,
steak.
It feels like hustle culture has combined dinner and a movie into one event. It's like you're supposed to do both. You're supposed to do both at different venues.
I have a question for you. If you're gonna go to dinner and a movie, which one do you do first?
Oh, interesting.
Mhm.
I think the classic is dinner first, but I
Yeah.
actually think dinner after is better
I think
because
so
then you can
too.
like talk about the movie.
Precisely. You can be
Yeah.
like, "What do you think? I thought it was good, but it really upset me." You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Well, because I think like the reason people don't think that going to the cinema is a good date is because you like can't talk. But like if
Mhm.
you then after talk about the movie, that makes the date way less awkward because you automatically have like stimulus to discuss, you know?
Mhm.
Like it's
New
like a book club.
It is. I think that's actually, yeah, I very much agree. It's also why, like, doing comedy, you see a lot of people on dates. I would never bring a
That's
date to a,
crazy.
but I understand, like, oh, you want to laugh, and then you also, I would say, if you really don't know a person, if you're going to a showcase show where it's just, different comics, you really get a barometer of what they find funny. And if it's not the
That's
same
true.
thing as you can kind of go, I don't think this is good.
That is helpful for sure. Cause yeah, you don't want to be like 3 dates in and realizing that they like really like misogynist, like wife hating jokes. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh no, this
Yeah.
this could have been avoided.
Yeah. And date one, had I only taken so what I'm trying to say is if you have a date, bring them to one of my comedy shows and
Yeah, yeah.
let us help you.
Yeah. I mean, it
Um,
is crazy. I would never take a date to a comedy show just because I do comedy, and that would be really weird to like bring a person to your workplace as a
yeah.
date. But
Yeah.
also, even if I wasn't a comedian, I was like, I'm like, I just feels wild. Feels
Yeah,
wild on a first date, especially. Maybe a second one. That would make more sense.
for sure.
Yeah.
Are you ready for some movie trivia?
Sure.
Okay. Starting off, same question I ask everybody.
Okay.
What is movie?
Okay. I would say it's like there's not much on, and then there's a kerfuffle of some description,
Okay.
shenanigans, a schmozzle, and then end of resolution of schmozzle, and then probably scene of like sky or paddock, kind of nice pan up sort of thing, city
Mhm.
from above, that type of vibe, clouds maybe.
Clowns,
if it's
maybe.
if it's animated, some animated bloopers to make the kids feel less scared. We should bring that back.
They really should. That's so much work, though, eh?
I know. Those Toy Story ones are so funny, and it's like
There's-
you didn't have to do this, but you
For
did, and
me,
thank you.
yeah, it's so lovely. That's a
I
very
know.
good answer. A schmuzzle is not a word I think I've heard very often, but I like it a lot.
I think it's an American word, isn't it?
I believe it's a Yiddish word. Yeah,
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah,
I like it.
yeah, 100%.
So many consonants in one word,
Yeah.
almost entirely consonants.
Oops, all consonants.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would say you mentioned him earlier. If you had had an animal to ratatouille yourself into success, what animal would that be?
It's interesting because in some ways, I think most animals have already had a movie, but in other ways they haven't. Like I can't really think of a turtle movie.
Teenage Mutant
But
Ninja Turtles.
oh,
Out of the
that's true.
Shadows.
Yes, those are those. I suppose those aren't. They're more they're freaks more so than they are turtles.
Sure, yeah, you
I think
get their
like
ass.
people focus on the turtle aspect of that movie a lot more than they focus on the mutant aspect, and I think we should. It's more mutant than it is turtle. Like
Well, I'll say this: the latest
most
one,
turtles don't know that much about Renaissance art.
That's true.
Even just aside from the fact that they're walking around with katanas and whatnot, they've got too much humanities knowledge.
Sure, they're too enlightened.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this, and what I mean by ratatouille yourself into success, you basically, you can pick a mascot for you, Grace. If you had to pick an animal, because there's that term spirit animal that's like, we're trying to move away from that because it's not polite to indigenous people. So I suggest that a ratatouille is a good replacement. So
I
what
do too.
animal?
That's a great replacement. Yeah.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
So what would your ratatouille be? The hat can be as big as you want it to be. It's infinite hat.
Well, it's interesting because recently my parents were at a hotel, and at that hotel there was also a furry convention.
Oh, interesting.
And they were bothering the hell out of these furries. From what I can tell, there was a lot of "our daughter is autistic as well" chat going on. And my dad's out here asking people about like their depth perception, if the tail affects how they move from side to side, sort of thing. And my mom is bothering like foxes and raccoons and being like, have you considered being an Australian native animal? Like that was her problem. She was like, what do you mean you're a fox? Why aren't you a koala or a bandicoot or something? And this woman is from New Zealand. Like she's just very passionately for the native animals of the country she's currently in. So I would like to I think there's not been enough Bilby movies, and I would like to I would go with the Bilby, you know? Because we in Australia we have rabbits, because I grew up in Queensland, so rabbits are illegal to own, which people think is crazy. There's like a big sign at the border that's like, surrender your rabbits or $10,000 fine or jail time for rabbit owning, which is wild. You can have an exception if you're on a magician's register, but that's,
of course,
that is a slippery slope, I have to say. So at Easter, we don't do chocolate bunnies, we do chocolate bilbies, and I love the Bilby, and I think that would be my sort of my guy.
Yeah,
because they're sweet and they're burrowy, you know, but they also can sort of hiss at you and be mad.
Yeah.
Also, they're very endangered, so someone should speak up for them.
Absolutely. I'm looking at them now on Google Images, and they are adorable. Incredible.
They're so cute.
Excellent
I had
pick.
my ex-boyfriend. Because like I was like I have a weird thing about pet names. Like I don't like baby because it's weird and infantilizing, and also feels like a very American like stylistic choice. And I was like, we should do like we do with the bunnies at Easter and have an Australian version of it. And I was like, oh well, the Australian version of it is Bilby, so I just called him Bilby instead of baby.
That's very funny.
Very cute.
That's very sweet. That's very good.
Yeah. And like an Australian grandma will call you like possum or poss instead of like chicken or hen like they do in the UK kind of thing. So I think all of our native animals are very sweet as pet names, and also sweet in general. So I'm pro Bilby.
Yes, I'm pro Bilby as well. Love Australian wildlife. Obsessed with it as a kid.
They're my favorite kind of mammal, where they are like sand based, but the sand never really gets stuck on them. Like they burrow and they kind of shake it off. Like the sand just kind of falls off them. And I enjoy that, because if I was a sand based animal that also had sand stuck to me all the time, I would kill myself. Like I just couldn't.
I mean, that's probably what happened in evolution. Just took
That's
over.
what I mean. Yeah, I know.
That's a great call. Yeah, they all just got depressed and like they died
from being
off,
all gritty all the time.
That's very funny. As someone who's has one foot, as it were, in Aotearoa, this maybe is pertinent to you. Who has the best hair out of all the Lord of the Rings characters?
Okay, interesting. I actually don't know that I've seen The Lord of the Rings.
Ooh,
I've read it. I've seen The Hobbit, because that came out in the cinema when I was a teenager. I don't know that I've sat down and watched all of The Lord of the Rings. I mean, they all seem to have great hair. Legolas, certainly, is very long and silky in a way. But I think Gandalf has a real, you know, he's good. They've all really got a lot in their own ways. They've got great hair.
I can't imagine, you know, I would
even the orcs,
see...
you know, they're being themselves, and that's important.
That's true. That is true. They do, when they do have hair, it's very thick.
Personal style is more important than trends, you know.
True. I do
she
feel
says in track pants and fucking band t-shirt in the middle of the day.
I mean, I'd say this as well. Like, I want to see the wig budget from Weta. You know,
Oh
because
my God.
I was so, when I was a child, so upset when I learned all of them are in wigs. Not a
It's
single.
devastating.
Yeah,
It's
I
but
felt a fool.
it's also never not upsetting. Like I saw Bottoms, and Ruby Cruz is wearing a wig in that movie, and I was like, ugh, I've been betrayed.
I've been fooled.
It's like it's not even part of, like, it's not even like a big deal. Like her hair is not like the main point of that movie, and I was still like, ha, I've been let down.
From which actor
Mhm.
would you steal a car?
Car. Okay. Honestly, I feel like there are a number of the more, like, not necessarily like the A-list most well-paid actors in the world, but like the ones who are like very comfortable, will, never have to work again type of vibe money-wise, who do shit like just being like, you need it more than I do. Like I feel like oh, what's his name? Who's who's Shaggy and Scooby-Doo?
What is his name? My God.
He's a delight.
He's a delight. It's escaping me because it's not Freddie Prinze
The
Jr.
guy from
because that's
Scream.
Fred.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna put in Shaggy actor, and it's gonna come up, and we're both gonna be upset that we couldn't remember Matthew Lillard.
Matthew Lillard. Yes. And the thing I love about him is that he has at no point taken his career for granted. Like every time anyone is like, hey, I think you're a really good actor, he's like, hey man, thank you so much. That means a lot to me. And I try really hard and I love this. And I'm so glad you like what I made. And I love that about him. And I do feel like if I was in a desperate enough situation that I needed to steal a car, I reckon he would be like, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be fine. You clearly have something urgent going on. I think he would be understanding,
Yeah, I think that's very good. You're the first person that sought out someone who would be empathetic to your situation. Everyone's like, okay, either who's a rich asshole that I can fuck over, or who's someone who I can take in a fight. And you're like, oh no, who would just understand that it's a desperate situation? That's so good.
I think he would. I think he would get it. I think he would, and I think I could, because I have medical PTSD, so I've spent a lot of time in hospitals screaming and then sending notes afterwards to be like, I'm so sorry, I have no control over that reaction. I'm sorry I made your job hard. And so many nurses who are like, I get it, man. You had no control over that, and it's our job to look after you. And I'm sorry it's hard for you as well, And those kinds of nurses are the best people in the whole world. And I think he would be of a similar kindness in this situation,
I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the next one I'm going to ask you is what's a film that you'd like people to remember, but they don't? I don't know why that came out like Stephen Fry.
It was good.
It
was a real deliverance.
Remember, but they don't.
I don't know. I feel like most, I don't think I have anything that's like super obscure that that no one is remembering. I don't know.
That's fine.
There's like, I really love Heathers, but no one's really forgotten that one, I don't think. But I don't think it gets enough credit for being a very funny parody of a teen movie.
It's really good. I saw it for the first time like 2 years ago. It's really fucking good.
It's really good. And like, and I keep bringing up Bottoms, but I watched it and I was like, oh, this feels like the modern Heathers. Like, I was like, I love that movie because it is such an absurdly like parody of a teen movie. And I was like, so is that, it's a very cool tradition that I enjoy. And also Labyrinth, which I don't think anyone's forgotten either, but there's something about like John Henson. he put life into those Muppets, you know?
Mhm.
Like they're not like the characters in that movie, like David Bowie, I could take or leave, to be honest. All like those, the worm,
A hot
like, and
take.
yeah,
A
like
hot take about Labyrinth. David Bowie's fine. Put anyone in there.
the worm has
yeah.
so much charisma, man.
He does.
Like,
he has the riz.
he does, and all the other little characters that go along with her, and the door knockers, like they're
Mhm.
fucking a delight.
Yeah, absolutely. So
It's
not so
not
much
that
the film, but you want people to remember the characters from Henson's Labyrinth.
Again, I think it's like movies that are of a certain age, people remember the
Mhm.
not the best stuff. Like you remember that David Bowie was in it. You remember that he's like weirdly into a teenage girl. That's not the best part of that movie. The best part is
I
all
would
of
argue
Jim
that's
Henson.
the worst.
Yeah, this is not good.
Yeah.
There was a movie that came out in Australia a few years ago that I'm pretty sure no one saw. It was about like a refugee population in a small country town, and everyone was kind of mad that there were like refugees in the town, and then they all like joined the AFL team, and it was so lovely. Like, because I'm not usually a sports movie girl, mostly because they're mostly made about American sports that I don't understand. But like this, I was like, I don't really understand AFL either, because I'm from Queensland and New Zealand, so I understand rugby league and rugby union. I'm not really across AFL, but like I could understand the like situation that it was like very wholesome and heartwarming, because it was like people overcoming racial prejudice and a sports movie in the same way, where you're like all the good things about a sports movie, where it's like, yeah, we did it, teamwork, and also like racial and cultural crossover is like harmonious in the town. What is it called? I think the Rooster or something.
The Rooster. I will let you look that up.
Bodgy Creek. That can't be it. The Merger. It's called The
Merger. Oh,
yeah. It's really sweet.
That sounds really lovely.
It's like a failing footy club, and they recruit a bunch of like new refugee people, like who've come to the town to be in the team, and then they like, you know, they do like prayer, like Islamic prayer before it, but they do it in this like very Australian way of like, you've combined two cultures in this way that is amazing. And also what is lovely about Australian culture when it isn't being heinously racist is how like mixed our cultures are constantly, and it's like lovely. Like that's what is good about multiculturalism, is like the weird stuff where it's like very Australian and also very every other culture at once. Like, you know, very good movie. I went to see it because I was literally like, we must support Australian film. Like I was like, I didn't even think I was going to like it. I was just like, I want them to know that I buy tickets to movies made here. And it was a delight, you know?
Oh, that's lovely. It sounds really good. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, do.
We'll have to do. Yeah, I mean, as someone who's also from a country that, like, when we get it right multiculturally, it's really beautiful, but mostly is known as being bigoted. It's really frustrating.
It's
like
wild.
It's really frustrating because sometimes
like,
it's
guys,
really beautiful.
Look at all the good stuff. Let's just do it like that.
Please, can we just concentrate for 5 seconds?
Yes.
Oh. We
actually mostly all agree about this.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I keep bringing up to people, you know, not to get on a soapbox, is every culture is the same as much as it's about food, family, and safety. And it's we just have to agree what that means. But we all want the same things. That's it.
The outfits look different some of the time. And that's it, basically.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. And as a person who loves outfits, that's an added bonus.
Yeah. What a beauty it is to express oneself through clothing.
The
Beau Brummel said, your style is you're being yourself on purpose.
Truly.
Yes.
There's a picture of me from when I'm very little. And I am white, like I'm Pākehā, you know, my family's from New Zealand, but they came there from Scotland and Nova Scotia like 3 generations ago, which is Scotland twice. It's pretty Scottish. But there's this picture of me from when I'm little, and I'm wearing my like Nana's like cream cashmere like cardigan with like kind of sequiny buttons, and over the top of that I'm wearing like a Maori outfit that one of my Nana's neighbors made for me because I liked her daughter's one so much that she made it for me. And so it's like, it is a very weird photo of like a white girl wearing like a cashmere like white cardigan, and over the top of that is like a cultural outfit that someone made for me because I loved their cultural outfit. And I feel like we have so much conversation about like cultural appropriation stuff now. Like, I feel like if you looked at that, you'd be like, oh, I don't know that it's appropriate for her to be wearing that. But the lady that made it for me was so delighted that I liked it so much that I wanted one. Like, she was so thrilled and came over to take the pictures of me in it to be like, oh my God, I love that you like what I'm, and I was like, I love this so much. And I wore it constantly as a kid. And like, that is where I think the kind of black and whiteness of like, you don't involve with cultures that aren't yours are like kind of upsetting to people who genuinely just, they meld very easily in a lot of ways. Like, you know, my mum did her like year abroad at uni in Japan, and there's so many pictures of her in her like kimono and the hair and the outfits and stuff, because her host family was like desperate to dress her up and like take her picture and put her next to all their daughters and be like, look, she's so much taller, but look, she's wearing the outfits. Like, it's very cute, you know?
Yeah, it is quite lovely. I do think that is a danger of it. And I really think the splitting, and I think you're right that it is quite lovely when it's being respectful and reciprocated on both sides. But I do think that that attitude, I feel like, really does come from America, because America doesn't have a unified sense of self. We're constantly dividing ourselves up, even from like states. Like, I'm really proud to be from Minnesota, but I'm not proud to be from America. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so interesting, because it is like a lot of racial, like, a lot of your kind of conversation about racial like interaction has kind of bled into our stuff. Like, I see like Americans in the comments under like New Zealanders stuff and being like, oh, are you allowed to be doing that? Like, why are there white people doing the haka and stuff? And it's like, oh, because like we've had like quite a long history of like involving everyone in those cultural traditions. Like, it's not like, there's still obviously a lot of racial stuff, and they just elected a very conservative government who's trying to
I know, I'm so sorry for your
pull
loss.
back all of this fucking bullshit. It's so brutal. But like, we have like quite a long history of like everyone being chill with us all doing it together, kind of like, as you know, my dad's white as shit and he did the haka like, you know, in high school and like learnt te reo, and like that's just part of growing up in New Zealand. And like, Americans are kind of like, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. And it's like, oh no, we don't need your opinion on this. This is already, this is okay.
But Grace, what you have to understand is Americans have opinion on everything.
You really do. And it is really wild to watch, because I'm like, so quickly, every year, something comes up on my phone of some Australian or New Zealander very politely explaining to Americans that we have Christmas in the summer every year. And it's like, we always do. How are there still more of you who don't know this? Because they come at you so hard and like, ugh, why is this idiot not wearing a jacket in November? And I'm like, oh, because it's 30 degrees. Like, why?
And then was like, what do you mean it's 30 degrees? That's so cold.
Oh, yeah, we're boiling.
For
like,
sure.
I just don't understand how we like, and everyone's so polite about it always. And I'm like, at a certain point, like, where have you been, you know?
Absolutely. I will say, not to toot my own horn, but when I was in New Zealand, a lot of people are like, oh, why do you know that? I'm like, because I'm visiting a foreign country and I should know the country I'm coming into, because I would be
Googled it quick.
Yeah, it would be crazy to not know that. Anyhow, we kind of get far afield, but it's been a lovely conversation. Oh, good. I'm going to ask you one last bit of trivia, and then we'll get to the pitch. The last bit of trivia is always, why is Austin Powers so sexy?
Charisma, baby.
Yeah, baby.
He's magnetic. I've been talking about this a lot, actually. Not Austin Powers specifically, but I went to a Rocky Horror screening on New Year's Eve, which was so fun, and I forgot how fun those are. And it was weird because my dad taught me like the call and response things, because he used to go like every Friday night in New Zealand kind of thing. And there were a bunch of like lines that no one else knew, and I was like, maybe this is the New Zealand script, I don't know. But there were a bunch of like people behind, like older people behind me, who kept kind of being scandalized when we yelled out the stuff, and it's like, didn't you guys make this up? Like, we've not written this is like an old script, like we didn't create this, like this is actually very lame, like we're not like improving, we're like yelling out a predetermined set of responses to a movie. But the thing about Rocky Horror is that it's like, it's not a good movie. Like, it's not good, but it is, the reason we keep watching it is because everybody in that movie is giving 110%. Like, they are so hot. Everyone in it is so hot, and they're just like, that no one in that movie turned up and went, wow, this is a bad script, I won't try very hard. They turned up. Fucking Tim Curry woke up, put that garter belt on, and was like, I'm gonna serve cunt harder than anybody ever has. And like, I don't even use that expression, but like, that's the only way to describe what he's doing. He's like giving 110%. Everybody is so sexy because like no one is laughing at themselves. And I think that's part of why Austin Powers is sexy as well. It's just truly just like no holding back. Just hard.
He is
just
doing
going
it.
at it. Yeah.
So good effort. Oh, that's very good.
Yeah.
Are you ready for our random word?
Sure, yeah.
All right. Doop-boop-boop-boop. Survivor.
Okay.
Survivor. All right. I kind of have a couple ideas, but I always like to defer to the guest because I don't want to bulldoze you.
I have not seen the show Survivor before. No. I've seen some of Lost. Also, when I was a kid, I thought they were the same show because the.
Can I tell you, I haven't seen either. I kind of thought the same thing as well.
Dude, the ads are so similar, man. Like, it's very.
Someone on a beach. Know, they're all hot.
I don't think I knew that Survivor was a reality show. I think I thought they had crashed a plane onto an island. Like, but also maybe sometimes they do that as like a bit. But anyway,
as like a joke, is this small amount of air terrorism? It's just like as a funny little thing we like to do. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I thought maybe they were pretending that they had like crashed, landed, even though I assume they hadn't. And I haven't seen like I Am Legend or any of those ones where it's like, is that when it's like there's one man left alive type of thing?
Yeah, and it's like a bunch of vampire zombies or something, from my understanding, and a dog dies in it. So
God, oh no, yeah. So I feel like that's what comes to mind is just like one guy in a situation. But
sure,
that's a lot of movies. To be fair, actually, most movies are a guy in a situation. I would like to argue that that's basically the plot of Dunkirk. It's a guy in a situation, man. That's what I should have said when you said, what's a movie?
That's true. That is true.
A guy in a situation.
It's just some guy.
A schmozzle, if you will.
I think Survivor, can be absolutely a guy in a situation. And part of me is like, I feel like Survivor should be about like a dramatic retelling of like a spelling bee competition or something. Okay, and it's like, that. So it's like high stakes for the characters, but you zoom out and it's like just the most local, like or a sheep shearing event. I don't know, something like
I do love a sheep shearing event. The 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee is very that vibe where it's like these kids are like bloodthirsty and it's like, it's not important. Like similar vibes with like, I didn't see The Martian, but The Martian is like he gets stuck on Mars and then he survives. Yeah. And I'm always like, I would just give up. Like I can't.
Can I tell you?
There's no way I would be waiting around in the hopes that someone will remember to come back for me. Like, I'm on Mars. Like, I just give
Is there
up.
life on Mars? Not for long.
I'm out of here, man. I cannot be dealing with this. I do not want to.
Can I tell you? I recently do an improv comedy stand-up show here in New York, and I got the ask of like, the prompt of zombies are happening. You know, what's your go-to move? I'm like, suicide. Do not want to deal with any of this.
It's like it's a dating app prompt. I'm not on dating apps anymore, but every time I get on them, it's like, what? It's like a fun prompt of like, what would you do? What's your first choice? Like in the apocalypse, I'm like, immediate suicide. Like I am not that keen on sticking around now. Like I don't have the strength to be the last man standing. Like
I think I have the movie, and it's a guy in a situation, and the situation yes, he really wants to kill himself, but he keeps surviving. He's like cursed to not be able to actually do it.
That rules, actually. That's yeah. Did you ever see
it's kind of like Groundhog Day at a certain point, but
Wrist Cutters, a love story?
I hadn't. No, I haven't.
That's a movie people should remember now that I think of it. It's really good. But yeah, it's like they kill themselves, and you go to it's like when you die, you go to a worse place, and everything is just real bad, and it's like all people who killed themselves, and it's like that, but in the real world where you just keep trying and things just get worse and worse and worse, and you just can't.
He can't do it.
Just like jumping off, like Richard Scarry vibes, like jumping off a bridge, and like there's a fireman's like trampoline underneath, and he's perfectly safe, and like
like he keeps trying to do it and he can't do it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's very good. I like that as a jumping off with the trampoline.
Trying to walk in front of a bus and having someone pull you back and be like, oh my God, we nearly lost you. It's like, that was the point.
I like the idea I like that. But I also like the idea if he tries to do the bus again and no one else is around. He found like a rural bus, right? And he steps in front of it and it just like breaks down. And now the Who can't get to their concert in time because their tour bus is broken down in the middle of
and everyone's mad at this guy, and this guy's like, I'm just trying to kill myself in peace, man. I didn't want to interrupt the Dave Matthews Band tour or whatever.
What do you think instigates his desire to no longer be around?
Probably like a history of depression and society that doesn't support anybody to live.
Okay, so he has Joker's disease. Got it. Cool. Yes. And he, rather than trying to blame society, blames himself. And so, okay.
So it's a female suicide, but it's a guy. We're subverting it. You know?
Of course.
Yeah.
Classic. Gender's not real. Classic. 100%. I like that a lot. I think getting Joaquin Phoenix to play it again, almost exactly the same way, but like more morose somehow.
He seems like he's up for a lot, Yeah. Or Daniel Radcliffe, because he is a guy who he loves to be in a movie about a situation.
He does.
That's what he loves. He loves to be in a schmozzle. It's good for him.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's really kind of difficult being in this situation. Absolutely.
They handed me the script and I was like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my fucking life. I'm in. Sign me up.
So you're telling me
attached to this project.
Absolutely. So it almost feels like a retelling of Sisyphus too. There's this idea, that quote that like one must imagine Sisyphus happy, right? This idea of like, there must be joy in the work of doing it over and over again. And I feel like this is the antithesis, if you will, to that. But I think
that's a crazy quote, because I have never thought to imagine Sisyphus happy, because it was actively a punishment. He's not supposed to be happy. He's supposed to be eternally punished by the gods, who are cruel and unforgiving.
Truly, I agree. And which
is truly why I believe in the Greek gods more than I believe in any of the others, because like they do bullshit, like, and life is bullshit. Like the
It's
Christian
true.
God is supposed to be all loving and all forgiving. And I'm like, have you seen the world? Like he's not involved. You know who I
Seems
think is
bad.
involved? Zeus.
That horny bastard.
That is a man with a revenge fantasy.
True. I do think
Yeah.
I almost like getting into this like area we are of like, okay, so he is a depressed person, and almost like either Sisyphus or Job, gods make a bet of like, how many times can we get this guy to kill himself? But we're not gonna let him do it.
Yes. That's very Terry
I
Pratchett-esque
was
God's vibe.
I was,
Yeah.
I was gonna say Good
I
Omens
love
is
that.
doing well. Let's cash in on that sort of thing.
Yes. I
Uh,
don't know if you've read The Last Hero, but that's my favorite Terry Pratchett book. And it's about a man who like goes to kill the gods because
mhm.
he's like the last hero and he was supposed to have a noble death and he didn't. And all of his friends died. And now he's just an old, sad man. And like that's the energy. Or like everywhere, what was it? Everything everywhere all at once. Whereas like the same guy in parallel universes and he's trying to kill himself in different ways and like he has tentacles in one universe and he still can't kill himself, like, you know, just like
So I like that as like the denouement, the biggest thing. He's been trying to kill himself, and he goes, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna go learn transcendental meditation. Maybe that'll cure me. And he goes and he gets to achieves this enlightenment, and then he tries to use it to get to the other plane to kill himself there, and he still cannot do it. And
I love it. We
I
should make this thing. This sounds good.
Yeah, this sounds like really easy to pitch to a studio executive, and everyone will
Yeah.
clearly not be off put by the content at
No, we're getting this made. There's funding available, I'm sure.
all.
I always think about it because I'm pretty sure if there are parallel dimensions, like
Mhm.
every alternate version of almost every parallel dimension version of myself killed herself in high school. Like almost all of them, for sure. Like it is actually miraculous that I didn't. So I like to sometimes think about it where I'm like, this is all cherries, you know? Like I should have been dead at 16. Like this is everything that's happening now is all just extras.
Yes, I like that I mean, that's, that's actually a very positive attitude when you think about it. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
life can't get, it's great. But yeah, I like that a lot. I like these series of vignettes of him trying to do it. Do you think he achieves enlightenment? He tries to go to the multiverse to kill all the version of himself. He can't do it, and then he has to confront the gods. What do they say to him? Why are they doing this to him, do you suppose?
I guess they're bored.
It's really
like
that simple, is it?
they've run out of eye-eating parasites to invent. They've decided to just pick on one guy, or just like, you know how like the trope of like, oh, the gods must hate me, and then he turns up and they were like, yeah, we do. We hate you a lot. Like we personally don't enjoy you as a person. Like it's our hobby to fuck with you. You're right. The gods do hate you. We're the gods. We hate you.
Boo, hiss, get out of here, Greg. We hate it.
Yeah, literally.
I like that. I thought I also had was what if he gets up there and he's like, why me? And they're like, oh, we just pulled it out of a hat, but we wanted to stop. Haven't you noticed that since you've been trying to kill yourself, the rest of the world has actually been great? And so we put all of the pain and misery into you. And
you're the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, you're the vessel for all of it. And you're
can't Jesus.
Yes, exactly. You can't kill yourself, because if you do, all the misery is going to get out and you're going to make everyone miserable.
Oh, Pandora's box. He's a human Pandora's box.
So that's he can't crazy. Do it. So they have to stop him from doing it.
I love that, actually. I always, side note, don't you think it's fascinating that there are people in the world named Pandora? Like, imagine looking at your beautiful baby girl and naming her after the source of all evils in the world. Isn't that crazy?
Discord. It's a bit mad, to be honest. I mean, yeah, I think about that a lot. I think
wild. I really love the name Ophelia as well. But like, you can't name a child that. because you are asking for her to kill herself. Like, it's a beautiful
True.
name, but it is simply not worth. It's not worth the potential hubris, you know?
Absolutely. I feel that way about biblical names as well a lot of the time as well. It's like no one names their kid Judas, obviously. But even
No.
someone like, Thomas, well, he was a doubter. You really want to bring that legacy up? Get out of
There's a
here.
lot of like, there's so many names where I'm like, you're asking for this trouble, you know? It's like naming someone Prometheus. It's like, well, this is not going to go well. This is not going to go well.
Absolutely not famously bad.
It would just be terrible.
Even when it's something like Arthur as well. It's like, you really want this guy to roam around killing people, judge, jury, and executioner style? Really? That's what you want for your kid? Arthur?
At least you could say you named him after the Arthur the Aardvark.
Yeah. True. I'd say as well, I think once he finds out that he's like that, I feel like he's got to be more determined than ever, right? To either kill himself or everyone else. Or does he turn on the gods, do you think?
He could like end the world, I guess, because then it's like, if the reason I can't kill myself is because all of the like horrific stuff is inside me and it will be let loose, if we just end the whole world, then I'll be free. It's very selfish. In a lot of ways, suicide is very selfish.
In some ways, yes. In other ways, I kind of get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good analogy, to be honest, Yeah,
that is,
He's like, this guy would rather end the whole world than like go to therapy.
Men would rather nuclear annihilation than go to therapy once.
Yeah. Truly.
That's very good. Do you think he succeeds in obliterating everything?
Surely not. He must just like go out to sea, just go out just on the open waves, just take to the Pacific,
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think he should,
because I think that going into the ocean is a very Catholic, because you know how Catholics think that suicide is a sin.
Yes,
but like, if you just walk into the ocean, that's kind of like hands free, like you can be like, there's a gray area. You can be like, I want to die, but the ocean has just taken me. Like I didn't, I wasn't involved in this. It was nature took me.
Yeah. The Lord himself took me away through the ocean. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So you can bury me in consecrated ground. Although I suppose the body's not. It's not even that useful. The body's not there.
Body's not there.
Although sometimes they wash up, I suppose.
I think him taking to the Pacific is great. I think he should get into a tussle with some of the gods, kill 2 of them, and then the third one says, if you go to this place in the middle of the Pacific, you will be able to be unburdened. But of course, once he gets to one side, he's just constantly going back and forth. He can't ever get 100%. To the actual, he's just constantly
stuck. It's all purgatory. Everything's purgatory. Life is purgatory.
True. Life is purgatory.
There's a book that I don't think anyone else has ever read. I bought it because I had like just me. I've discovered it. It's got some pretty cool stuff in here, guys. I don't know if you know, actually, Jesus, a political revolutionary. He's a pretty chill guy. Turns my seat backwards. I read this book. I bought it because I had I won like an academic award at school, and they would always like be like a certificate and like a book voucher. And because I was a bookish kid, book vouchers were kind of my currency. And I bought this book. It's called Drift House by Dale Peck. I am not convinced. I just don't think anyone's read it, but I've read it so many times. I love it so much. It was like one of my favorite books as a kid. And it's about, it's like 9/11 happens. And so their parents send these kids to stay with their uncle in Canada to be away from New York. And so they go into this house, and it's a big boat. The house is boat shaped. And they're like, that's suspicious. And then the sea of time takes the boat, and then they're afloat. And then there's a lot of very, very existential time-based stuff going on. And at a certain point, a big whale takes them to the bottom of the like sea of time in this like whirlpool. And she has to choose between locking the lock and making it so that no time ever passes again and no one dies and no one is born and, time stands still, or choosing to not do that and to live in a world that is both beautiful and contains pain and suffering. And it's a very good book, I think, for like a middle grade novel, incredibly existential. But also I think that like there could be like a, sea of time, whirlpool, like gets to the bottom of things situation in the middle of the sea where he can like go down there and be like kind of the oracle or something, peace with it.
Yeah, I think I like that. Him becoming,
or he just has spent all the movie trying to purposefully kill himself and he just dies of an accidental death.
that would be very funny. That's admittedly quite good, but I like this idea of him being redeemed in as much as he like greets people who are in the exact same situation as him. And going, listen, mate.
I've tried this. I've tried. It's not worth it.
Yeah. It's not worth it. You're gonna have to go kill gods. It's like a huge headache. Don't even do it.
It's a nightmare. Have you seen Mount Olympus? It's huge. Like, it's so tiring to climb up there. They don't have like help. No donkeys want to go up there, It's a mess.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know why donkeys is my mode of transportation in this situation, but live
a little.
They're very involved. Say what you will about the donkey, like there's not a lot of stories where there wasn't one.
That's true.
Surprisingly prolific in literature, the donkey.
You're not wrong.
The Bible's full of them.
That's true. Did you know there's a sequel to Drift House: The First Voyage?
No.
It's called The Lost Cities. It came out
in 2007.
God. Yeah.
I must read that immediately. Oh, fuck. I think it's interesting. It's kind of my example of like, I'm sure maybe it was more popular in America, maybe it only had the one publishing run here or whatever. But it's a real example of like, you don't know when you're making stuff that's good and important to someone, because like that guy doesn't know that I've read it 20 times. Yeah, like he just wrote a book and maybe gets like $10 a month on like royalties or however that works, but like that story has like become ingrained to who I am as a person, and he doesn't know that. How can you know?
How can you know? I think about that a lot too, and specifically like doing what we do of like, I remember growing up telling other like friends so many jokes of other comedians, and it was like, I hope someday to be passed around a playground like that, because that's just where it's at,
100%. I was such a comedy nerd as like a teenager, and because I wasn't really allowed to watch TV, like a lot of people's like famous like favorite comedians are like very, very famous like American stand-ups, from the 90s kind of thing. But because the only TV I had access to was the Australian Broadcasting Corporation for the most part, all of my heroes were Australians and New Zealanders, which meant that I met them like 2 years into comedy, because the ceiling is pretty low. But like, it was so weird to like meet people and be like, I could recite your 2014 gala set to you right now. Like I have it memorized. And like Sarah Kendall doesn't know that the 4-minute set she did on the gala when I was in year 12 is like, I've watched it 100 times. I think it is a perfect set. Like it is so funny and I love it. And she probably watched it back and was like, oh, I fumbled over it twice. Fuck, I messed up my big gig. And like, I have it memorized. Like the first time I watched it, I was like, this is incredible. And I didn't know that they put it on YouTube afterwards. So when it reran, I like filmed the TV on my little iPod Touch so that I could watch her set again. Like that's how much I loved that joke. And she doesn't know. Like that's, art is really weird and like important things to, I think it's part of why I enjoy the fact that other countries have different understanding of what a like canon is and what's a classic and like what's the important kind of art, because there's actually the important kind of art. Like the important kind of art is the stuff that sticks with you. And for me, that's Sarah Kendall on the gala when I was 17 and like Drift House and like very weird and specific key things that make up who I am as a person. I think it's very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you 100%. Do you want to do a quick lightning round?
Yeah.
You keen?
100%. Yes.
All right. Let's see here. So again, we get the same prompt, and
Okay.
then we both do a quick one. I do feel like it's rather. You were just so sincere, and I was like, "Oh yeah, do you want to move on to the next game?"
Yeah.
I felt a bit rude. That what you said
No,
just now was quite lovely, and I did
this
take it to
is
heart.
this is my problem is that like I keep doing podcasts with people who have like premises and like things to get through, and it's like you have to direct me because I will just talk for an hour. Like I will fill time, and then they're suddenly like, oh, we haven't actually answered the question, and I'm like, oh, but it's your question, you gotta come back to me. I will just I forget we're even recording this. I'm having a chat.
Good, glad. The word we have is valid.
Okay.
So for me, it is about a man trying to validate his parking, and
Yes.
he can't do it. And he keeps trying, he keeps getting directed to different parts of the building, and he can't escape the building. And eventually he gets to the middle of the building and he realizes that he is in fact the car the whole
Like
time.
transform like a Disney like short film, but it's for Transformers from the Transformers universe.
Yeah, he just goes into a car and then he gets parked.
Yes.
And then someone
Oh my
tries to,
God.
and it starts again.
We're making some really existential movies today.
Yeah,
Incredible
man.
stuff. Like, yeah, very good. I also don't even know what that means. Like, what does validating the parking even mean?
Oh, it means essentially the business place for your parking spot, because we charge for parking here.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so you go up to a building and go, do you validate parking? Meaning, will you cover this? Basically,
Right.
so like get a reimbursement. But yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think they do that here. I just don't know that that's what they call it. Maybe it's hard to say. Valid. For some reason, it reminded me of that. Did you ever see the movie Valiant?
Bits and pieces. Yeah.
It was like a World War II movie about pigeons.
Yeah, pigeon. Yeah.
Like pigeon in a fucking metal hat. Like the best. I feel like maybe mine could be like about trying to like maybe like one of those movies where you have to like change country, like kind of Eat, Pray, Love type of vibes of like traveling, but it's because your visa has expired somewhere else, so you have to go out of the country,
working holiday,
and then you have to leave the country to get the visa to get back into the country, and like on the way you find yourself,
that's very
Elizabeth
good.
Gilbert style.
I like that a lot. It's quite good.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we have another quick one, which is, come on, guilt.
Oh my God, that's what most movies are about.
That's true.
That's cinema, baby.
That's cinema, baby. Guilt, I would say, is about a woman enters a pie making contest.
Okay, yes.
And she cheats.
Oh my God.
And she gets away with it.
I'm hooked.
But it does absolutely slowly eat away at her to the point where subconsciously in her sleep, she starts committing arson because she's so hype about it. And then she has to come away from that. And it's like a mystery on the one hand, and it's like a thriller, but it's set in like...
Or like a Jekyll and Hyde situation where she's trying to solve her own crimes.
Yeah. Yeah, she's the police chief.
Yes.
Why not? And she's in like, I don't know, Butte,
because
Montana.
Of feminism. Women can be horrific cops as well.
AWAB, all women are bad. No. But yeah, I think in like Butte, Montana, and it's a very small movie. What's yours?
Yeah, I like that. Guilt. It's interesting. Because the term like guilty pleasure, I don't think I have some problems with the term guilty pleasure because I often think it is mostly used to describe things that women enjoy. Like it's just often just a way of being like, ooh, you're not allowed to like this thing because usually women like it. And it's like, this is just misogyny in an extra package. But I think my only true like actual guilty pleasure is watching two sides of a comedian's breakup in fringe show format. Like two comedians break up with each other and then they both write shows and I see both because like I simply must, you know? And like I think that's
it's such a specific thing.
but the thing is it happens so frequently. Like there's usually one every year. Like
you're not wrong. That's 100% correct.
I feel like that my movie would be maybe about the character who's like going to both sides of like the story, or like they're both, the shows are both like, I don't know, in the same venue or something. And it's like, you know, everyone, you know, that kind of the drama of like this breakup and everyone knows about it and there's shows about it. And yeah.
What if it's a reviewer who's trying to figure out who they like more?
Yes, trying to figure out how the relationship ended by like yes,
putting the clues together.
That's the only good reason to be a reviewer. Yeah, exactly. It's a good reason to be a reviewer.
You were saying that's the only good reason to be a reviewer. You're not wrong.
Yeah, to be like more of a detective than like a social detective.
I think so.
Like interviewing all their friends, like going to their friends' shows to see if they mention it. Like,
yeah, so great.
Funny. Getting a job as a reviewer because you love personal gossip, like that's the reason.
That's the reason to do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Finally, we have Smooth.
Okay.
Smooth. For me, it's about the person that figures out smooth peanut butter instead of chunky peanut butter first.
Ooh,
they're like, if you just mush it up more and add more oil, you can just make it better exponentially, actually.
Yes. It's like that Jennifer Lawrence movie about mops.
Yes. Joy, I believe is what it's called.
But for peanuts.
And I think what happens is there's a litigation about whether or not, because he goes, well, you know, it's kind of similar to the Kellogg brothers where they go, well, I will want crunchy, I want smooth. He goes, well, I'm going to take my smooth peanut butter over here and start my own company. And then he goes, hang on, that's not allowed. I own the patent on that. And there's a big lawsuit about it.
What happened with the Kellogg brothers? Because I thought their whole thing was that the cornflakes were supposed to stop you from masturbating. Isn't that their thing?
That's part of it, yeah. And basically what had happened was one of them was like, hey, let's put sugar on these cornflakes because, you know, it'll sell better. And the other guy's like, that's a pleasure. That's a sin. No, I'm going to go become a doctor and start circumcision in the U.S., actually. That's going to be my whole deal.
You guys have a very complicated relationship with cereal, like more so than anywhere else.
Truly. It's just like we should just be eating oats. That's it. Everyone calm down. Just have a bowl of oatmeal. Have some
Vibe
oats.
it out. Yeah. I feel like Smooth maybe like should be like a jazz club situation. Ooh. Or like someone like a girl, she starts bartending at a jazz club and then she gets involved with like a jazz musician. And then, I don't know, maybe she's like murdered and hidden inside a bass or something. Or maybe she becomes not a double, well, could be a double bass, but I don't know why I think the only instrument involved in jazz is the double bass. There's definitely trumpets as well.
That's true. Well, thank you very much for doing this. What do you want people to know about you that listen to this podcast?
I'm a comedian. You can buy tickets to my shows. Is this the plug area?
This is the plug area.
Is this like
yeah.
Personal growth. Okay, great. Yeah, you can follow me on the internet at Grace Jarvis Oh No on Twitter and Instagram and Threads and TikTok and all the ones that I'm supposed to be on now, even though I mostly just like Twitter. And if you live in Australia, you can come and see my new show. It's called Oh the Horrors. It is at Adelaide Fringe Festival, Melbourne Comedy Festival, Sydney Comedy Festival, and Brisbane Comedy Festival. Oh, wow. And then I'm moving to the UK and it will be in Edinburgh as well. But then I will, be in the UK. So you can see me there on the street, maybe.
Very cool.
Just walking up and down.
To
Potentially on a much less annoying time difference.
Can I tell you, it's almost trickier because it's like 3 a.m. there now, and it's just
like a sideway. Oh, that's true, actually.
Yeah,
annoying.
It's like 3 Perths away. But to you, the listener, I want to say thank you. And also, if you want to support this podcast by going to substack.com, that's tristanmiller.substack.com, early access to the episodes, video of the episodes, and then also a bonus podcast where I discuss people's comfort movies called Movies to Fall Asleep To. It's a podcast that you're meant to fall asleep to. It's pretty fun. Done a couple episodes, trying to do more. We have some great guests on that. Gabe Dunn just did an episode. My friend Hussein Hamouda did an episode, and then Glenn Tickle, who's a great, very fun comedian that I like a lot. And then to you, Grace, I want to say thank you very much. I appreciate you being on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for finding a time that works for both of us. And I'm excited to maybe see one of your shows when we are both in the same hemisphere and or time zone.
Ideally. Oh, I also just last night filmed my first special kind of thing. Ideally, someone will be able to watch it at some point. It has been professionally filmed. So there's that as like a no information at all, but just a general concept of people. If you want to bother me to be like, when's that thing coming out? And I'll be like, who knows? I'm not at the helm of this thing now, but we'll discover.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.